Hi, thank you for watching Digging to China. I'm Dong Sean. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. In China, online sentiments regarding the war in Ukraine have shifted over the past months. Now there is more emphasis on the weakness of the Russian military strategy. There are also more voices criticizing those who cheer for Putin. On Chinese most popular social media site Weibo, one would typically find some of the loudest voices in support of Russia. However, Ukraine's counteroffensives and a series of tactical withdrawals by Russia's forces have left some Chinese social media users acknowledging that their endorsement has backfired. As a result, Russia has earned the nickname Cai, literally translation veggie goose. The cultural implication, weak goose. Cai, veggie means soft, backwater, and goose in Chinese has the same pronunciation as Russia. In other words, weak Russia. The words weak goose are now accompanying posts about Russia's stalled offensive in Ukraine next to pictures of abandoned hardware including tanks and armored vehicles and maps illustrating the scales of the Russian retreat. The nickname is particularly popular among Weibo's large network of military bloggers. In the early days of the war, the majority of the Chinese public sided with Russia in a perceived proxy battle against the West and the United States. Chinese bloggers predicted a rout in favor of Russia. However, Ukrainian resistance has forced the Kremlin to repeatedly recalibrate its objectives, and the Chinese observers were forced to shift their own expectations. Russia's withdrawal from the town of Liman was the latest failed engagement to trend on Weibo. For some, faith in a Russian victory is declining. For others, admiration for Russia's military standards is fading with each revelation of ill-equipped troops, sinking morale, and questionable battlefield tactics. Weak goose is weak, one user said. Although I call them weak goose too, I really think the Russian forces have underestimated the strength of NATO's military aid to Ukraine, a second user wrote. The nickname represents the Chinese public's re-evaluation of Russia's military competence. The Kremlin's reputation hasn't been helped by its need to mobilize more forces. The Ukrainian war has been going on for 8 months. Russia received little recognition even from the international organizations it leads. For example, in the Collective Security Treaty Organization, only Belarus supports Russia. In the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, no member or partner state publicly recognized the legitimacy of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. It is obvious that war has exposed a weakness in Russia. Geopolitically, it has been isolated to such an extent that even pro-Russia international organizations have no way to lend a helping hand. The game between China, the US, and Russia is becoming more and more interesting. At the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit, the official statements issued by China and Russia clearly mention the strengthening of cooperation between the two countries. Putin offered clear support for China's position on the Taiwan issue, but China has not publicly endorsed Russia's Ukraine war. After the SCO summit, US President Joe Biden said that he did not see concrete measures and promises by China to support Russia, but he would help defend Taiwan against attack. His comments reflect the fact that Russia is more dependent on China and the United States is more afraid of China, not Russia. The future of China-Russia relations may not be as optimistic as some Russians think. Both the West and the Russians are only paying attention to the attitude of the Chinese government. It is a flawed way to understand China-Russia relations. they must also focus more on the changes in Chinese public opinion. Establishing a friendship with the government and the government alone will not solve all problems. The Chinese government is increasingly concerned about the changes in public opinion. If the people are dissatisfied with some policies, the government will consider revising them to prevent the problem from expanding and affecting social stability. Russian officials are content to ignore Chinese public opinion. Many of their PR mistakes will easily worsen the Chinese people's impression of Russia. Russia shall also pay more attention to voices that oppose Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The Russian embassy in China is certainly hearing a lot about the support of Russia's position from Chinese officials and pro-Russian figures. On the contrary, the Chinese voices speaking against Russia's invasion of Ukraine may not be heard enough by Russian policymakers. When faced with the fact that some Chinese support the Ukraine against Russia, the Russian embassy often turns a blind eye. In the past 8 months, Chinese doubts about the Ukraine war have grown. For example, in the first few weeks of the war, China's state television network CCTV invited many famous international experts to discuss the situation. Many openly said that Russia would definitely win, but these voices have recently disappeared from the state-owned media, and their past comments have become a favorite joke among some Chinese netizens. Meanwhile, opposition to Russia's invasion of Ukraine is growing in Chinese public opinion. The debates are easy to find, and the pro-Russian group is more passive than before. Some ordinary people even gave Putin and the Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu nicknames, mocking Russian military purchases of weapons from Iran and North Korea. And the pro-Russian netizens have a hard time rebutting these insults. They will only say, Putin is playing a grand chess game and he is waiting for winter to come. Chinese who supported Russia in the past now see that the war situation is getting worse. These people are beginning to worry about the consequences. They are even thinking about the impact on China if the Russian army fails. This change is not only related to the battlefield situation but also to the more cautious judgment of the Chinese media and even Chinese officials on Russia's future. Many see the situation very simply. Russia launched a war against a country that has diplomatic relations, defying a peace treaty to seize its land and the population. This is not only against international law, but may also be risky for China. Putin's decision to hold a referendum in Ukraine to annex territory has made some Chinese wary. This reminded them of what they learned in Chinese textbooks. More than 70 years ago, Russia inked a similar referendum in Mongolia, which carved off part of China's territory. One netizen's comment on the news represents the mainstream opinion. It seems the Russians have not changed after so many years. However, it is unrealistic to believe that Chinese public or Chinese regime will stop backing the merits of Russia's cause, because there is a strong belief that Washington is intent on containing Beijing one way or the other. So, Beijing must stand with Moscow. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button right here. I'll see you again shortly. Until then, be well.